So I have started the recording just to make everyone aware that this is being recorded so that a lot of people who couldn't make the live version will be able to watch the catch up afterwards. It'll be on the Future Skills Week website and on our YouTube channel. So you are all most welcome today with Katie Matthews. So Katie is dealing with me, myself, and mental health today. I'm not going to go into a huge background on Katie, but she's a multi-award winning entrepreneur, trauma-informed educator, mental health and well-being trainer. She's a speaker, she's a mentor, 12 years living experience also with mental health. Very passionate about inclusivity, entrepreneurship, positive mental health, multi-potentiality, youth development, female leadership, growth mindset, mindfulness and kindfulness. I love that setting, mindfulness and kindfulness. And she's going to be with us, all of us lucky people who get to see you live today, Katie, for an hour. I'm going to put myself on mute so that I'm not interfering with anyone else, but continue to interact in the chat box, guys, okay?
Hello, everyone. That's great, Kathleen. Thanks so much for that lovely introduction. I'm just going to pop that on so people can see my name. Yes, I am Katie Matthews. I'm the founder of the Mind Tribe UK. I'll tell you a little bit more about me in a wee second, who I actually am, so you're not just thinking, who is this random lady that's come to speak to us today? But you're almost welcome, and thank you so much for joining us. I hope today, you can take some value from it. It's a very broad session, because mental health is such a huge, topic. But we're going to see about, mental health, mental illness, some of the signs we can look for if we're feeling stressed. And then we've got a couple of practical activities as well around mindfulness and just, little things that you can do if you're maybe feeling a bit overwhelmed. Please do not worry if you'd prefer not to get involved with them and you prefer to just watch. That's absolutely fine. If you do, however, want to put your camera on or want to jump in and ask something, please feel free. I'm going to try and monitor the chat as we go. So if anybody does have any questions or any points throughout the session, please feel free to fire them into the chat and I'll try and address them as we go. And what we'll try and do then is get finished by about 25 past 3. And then leave a little bit of time then for any questions at the end. Okay. I'm happy to say on afterwards, if anybody does have any questions, that's absolutely fine. And also if anybody does want to ask something, but you don't want it to be public, I think there's, Kathy, am I right in saying there's an option where you can just send it to me? Is it like Zoom?
Absolutely, yeah. If you go into the chat box, guys, or if you go to the people that are listed, and you see Katie's name and you hover over beside Katie, you can send her a private chat message or myself. I'm Kathy, but I look like I am called Ulster Employability. You can ask us private questions.
Perfect. That's great. Thanks, Kathy. So if, as I say, you want to ask something, but you don't want everybody else to see it, absolutely fine. The nature of the topic, we want to respect everyone's privacy. So you can pop me a message or pop Kathy a message and she can ask on your behalf. Or if you'd prefer, you can send me a message afterwards, collect me on LinkedIn or send me a wee email. That's not a problem. So who am I? My name is Katie, as I've said. I'm 29. I'm from England, but I've lived in Northern Ireland for 10 years. I'm a mental health and wellbeing trainer, and I have multiple businesses. So I run the Mind Tribe UK, a tuition company. I also run a candle company called Odence. I'm the national director, the Northern Ireland national director for the Global Entrepreneurship Network. I run the Young Entrepreneurs Network for Northern Ireland, and I've also more recently just founded Phyla Global, which is the Female Youth Leadership Academy. I have 12 years living experience with mental illness. So I was diagnosed with depression when I was 17, and then diagnosed with anxiety then when I was 22. So all of this is coming from, a lived experience / living. As I say, I'm still currently living with it, still taking my medication every day, still do my exercises every day. So, if anybody is struggling today, please know that you can definitely reach out. And as I say, if you'd prefer to reach out to me and I can signpost, absolutely fine. After some of the sessions that I did previously with Ulster University, some of the students reached out to me directly on LinkedIn, and I actually followed up with them and just had, a wee half an hour cup of tea afterwards. and was able to then get them sorted with the right services. So I'm more than happy to do that. Just to give a little trigger or a topic warning before we get stuck in, of course, the nature of today's topics, may be a bit sensitive or maybe triggering for people. Please look after your own mental health. Okay, so that is the biggest priority for me, is that you keep yourself psychologically safe and that you come away from today feeling, as okay as can be, basically. I'd encourage a little bit of self-care as always, but particularly today after doing, some sessions around mental health and mental illness. And as I say, then there'll be time for a Q&A at the end. Okay, so let's get stuck in. So mental health and mental illness, then, they are different. So I know that may sound obvious, but a lot of the time people use the words interchangeably and they don't realize that they're different. Okay, so mental health is something that everybody has in the same way that everyone has physical health. Okay, mental illness is something that is diagnosed and it's only something that some people would have, in the same way that some people would have, physical illnesses or diagnoses. Okay, so just to be really clear with our terminology, you can't get mental health. You already have mental health. You get mental illness, or you could potentially develop mental illness then. Okay, at the moment within the UK and within Northern Ireland, there's 1 in 4 adults that currently have a diagnosed mental health condition. However, because of the pandemic, that is likely to significantly increase. I think I'm sharing this in one of my other sessions, but with your age group, particularly teenagers up to sort of the age of 25, there's been a 300% increase in rates of anxiety and a 400% increase in rates of depression as a result of the pandemic. So this is something that's very, very poignant and brilliant, to see you guys along here today to build that knowledge and to build that awareness. So what is mental health then? What do we actually mean? So it's a positive state of mind and body, feeling safe and able to cope with a sense of connection with people, communities, and the wider environment. So that's our academic definition, but you can see that I picked out a couple of wee bits about, the positive state of mind, feeling safe and able to cope. Okay, so that's a big one. It's that ability to cope with, the everyday stresses of life, and having that sense of connection then. Okay, so I'm sure you can guess mental ill health is going to be pretty much the opposite, but it is split into 2. Okay, so mental ill health is the broad term. It's like that umbrella term that includes mental health problems or mental health conditions or mental health issues, sorry, and also mental illness. Okay, so what we would say if somebody is starting to struggle with their mental health, and it's starting to interfere, with, as it says there, the mental health problem with the cognitive, so your thinking ability, your emotional or your social abilities, it may not meet that criteria to be diagnosed as a mental illness, but that's when we may be looking at, okay, so we're feeling stressed, or we can start to feel that we're not quite feeling ourselves. All right, and usually when it's a mental health problem, it's slightly less severe and it usually is for a shorter duration. Okay, however, it's not to say that, in some cases, myself included, that can then escalate or that can exacerbate then into mental illness. Okay, and that is something, as I said previously, that is diagnosed by, a doctor or a medical professional, and it significantly interferes with your abilities then. Okay, so it's something that is having a significant impact on everyday life. There's different types of mental illness. We've got anxiety, or we've got anxiety disorders, depressive conditions, with PTSD, bipolar. There's so many, but that is our broad umbrella term, then mental illness. And as we know that they can have varying degrees of severity then. Okay, mental illness, as we said, is something every single day that you're battling with, you significantly interferes. And I can hold my hand up and say that mine is definitely still mental illness. I have to work on it every single day, and in order to run my businesses, in order to be able to function, essentially. So it's not something to be embarrassed about. It's just something that if we are aware of it, then it means we can get the support that we need. So what I would love to know, I'm going to try and be fancy here and use the polling system, but it might not go well. I'm just going to do a really simple one, which is anonymous. I'm just going to put in, are you feeling stressed at the moment? Nice and simple. Okay, so you've got a yes or no option, and it's all anonymous. Okay, so some people may not be feeling stressed, they may be like, no, I'm handling things okay, or I've just finished my degree work, so I'm feeling all right, not feeling too stressed. Okay, that's fab. So we've got 14 yeses, 10 no's, and a few people still to respond there. Just give you another wee second. I know that's probably quite black and white, yes or no. I know it's a spectrum, but on the whole. Okay, so we've got a bit of a mixture. That's fab. Thank you so much for that. So we've got a mixture of some people saying yes, roughly half and half. Thank you, Rachel, using the poll, thinking I'm all flash. So you probably, if anybody was here at the beginning, you'd have heard me saying about my tech skills. So I do think I am very flashy right now. Thank you for contributing that. I love all the wee comments, the laughing. That's great. Thank you so much for contributing there. So for people that are feeling stressed, you may already be experiencing some of these symptoms. For people that aren't necessarily feeling stressed at the moment, may recognize within themselves, God, yeah, I was feeling stressed at that particular time. Or going forward, it will give you things then that you can look out for and can recognize within yourself. Okay. So recognizing stress and burnout is so crucial. I experienced burnout when I was 26. I was actually going through bankruptcy at the time with my first business, so it was extremely stressful. And as a result of that, then I was significantly ill, mentally ill, but also then developed a physical condition. So after that bankruptcy, the doctors actually think that the trauma of that sparked this autoimmune condition that I now have. And it's chronic, it will last. I'll have it forever now. It's not something that will ever go. So recognizing that stress and burnout and that, need for self-care is so crucial. And if we can get in early and start trying to manage that, it's going to be a hell of a lot easier, than trying, maybe months down the line or reaching that point of burnout and snapping, essentially. Okay. So, you may notice within yourself that your breathing's changing. You might get a rapid heartbeat or feeling a bit like that, a little bit breathless and not being able to catch your breath. You may feel as if you're quite flushed a lot of the time, starting to sweat a bit more, maybe getting headaches more frequently. And that's obviously to do with that tension, that you're holding in your body. Muscle tension, as I've said there, you may then feel more fatigued. You may feel extremely tired and not necessarily having a reason, if you like, not a recognizable thing like, oh, I ran a marathon. So not that that's something I would ever be doing, but we can all dream, hey. But you may notice that within yourself, that you're starting to feel extremely exhausted. Maybe you're feeling a bit sick. Maybe you've got an upset tummy. That's giving you digestive problems. You may also be engaging in self-destructive behaviors, and sometimes that can be without even realizing. So when my anxiety is really bad, I definitely do this, where I start to push people away and I start to isolate myself. And then the depression gets worse, because you start then feeling worthless and feeling guilty, and all these things come up in your mind. So, it's really important that we're recognizing these within ourselves. Okay. Yeah, absolutely. And that's how I know, that's how my fiance and my family also know when my mental health is getting worse, because they see me start to push people away. Yep, I'm exactly the same, Kathy. I won't take phone calls. I won't answer people's phone calls. I struggle to answer emails, which is mad, well, not mad, but you know what I mean? It seems irrational almost, So what we can do is still maintain that contact, to let them know that you're thinking about. Yeah, I see a few people saying I do that. Absolutely. It's really common. But as we start to recognize that, and if we have experienced it ourselves, we know how they're feeling. We can empathize, we can say, okay, well, maybe they want me to back off a little bit. They need a little bit of space. but I am going to send them a message or a meme or a little funny video, you know, something just so that they know I'm thinking about them. Okay. I'm doing, on Friday, I'm doing a whole session on supporting a friend. Okay, so that one we'll go into that more detail about what we can actually do and strategies then. So hopefully we'll see you at that one. Oh, lovely. Putting a chocolate bar through the letterbox. Gail's booked in for that one. Lovely. Well, I look forward to seeing you at that one. So recognizing those symptoms then. And this is one that I get asked quite often actually. So this is why I wanted to put this in about how do I know, or how do I know, you know, if it's myself or somebody else, whether I'm just struggling with low mood and maybe feeling a bit low, or am I actually, you know, displaying the signs and symptoms of depression? Okay. So there's 3 or 4, should I say, major things to look out for to then go, okay, right, this is probably a little bit more severe now than a low mood. This is not response to something, you know, grief is totally normal. That's another thing as well, you know, how do we know if it's grief or depression? Grief usually starts to subside after a period of time. It becomes easier to manage, whereas the depression is something that is enduring and starts to affect your everyday life. Okay, so as you can see there, it's out of character. Okay, so a lot of people with me don't think that I live with mental illness because they think, but she's so bubbly and she's so chatty and happy. How could she possibly have depression? But there's something, I don't know if anybody's heard of it. It'd be great to know in the chat actually if you have, something called smiling depression, where it's essentially, you know, people like Robin Williams, who unfortunately took his own life. You know, we look at them and we think, but they're so happy and they present as so joyful. How are, you know, are they struggling with that? But that's a way of coping. And yeah, that's a way that I cope with it. You know, is that not putting on a mask, because I am, you know, very happy and bubbly anyway. That's my personality. But, you know, recognizing when that change was happening. Yeah, similar to high functioning depression, absolutely. And you've also got things, you know, high functioning anxiety as well. So I would have both of them, you know, where I'm still able to run my businesses. I'm still able to do some social things, but I have to manage it, and I have to consciously manage it every single day. So for me, how I knew that mine had spilled over into depression when I was 17 was that it was out of character. So it's very, very low. And this was persistent. So this was going on and on and on. It was just getting worse. You know, apologies, the train's going past. It was every single day, and it still is every single day. You know, it's not something really that kind of ever goes for me. Though for some people, you know, it is possible for people to heal, and it is possible for people to recover. You know, so please don't think that I'm saying, you know, this is the end of it. But it is recognizing, is it persistent? Has it been going on for more than 3 weeks? So that is the official diagnosis question, if you like, a GP will ask, or a health professional. So if it's been going on for more than 3 weeks, that is what would then classify or would permit you to have that diagnosis then of depression. And then, as I say, that final bit is it affecting daily life? Okay, so is it affecting the things that you're doing? You know, are you struggling to brush your teeth, to have a shower, to get up and get dressed, to eat properly? And these are all things that I struggle with. You know, it sounds irrational, you know, to some people maybe that haven't lived with it, but you think brushing your teeth, how can that be hard? But when you're in that space and you're very low, everything is difficult. You know, just basic functioning is challenging. So within yourself, whether it's within yourself, sorry, or whether it's within other people, there's some of the things that you can look out for if, you know, they're a bit low, but then you think, okay, this has been going on for a few weeks now. What am I starting to notice? Okay, so hopefully that will help a wee bit. So things we can actually do then to combat that stress and combat that burnout. So we can set boundaries. A lot of the time we find it very difficult to say no. You know, I'm one of those people. I really struggle. I hate disappointing people. I don't know if anybody's the same, but you know, you don't want to let people down. So you struggle with setting and maintaining those boundaries. So you may spread yourself too thinly, or you may say yes to things that you don't necessarily want to do. So being really firm with them and saying, do you know what? It's okay that I need to set those boundaries. It's okay that I need to look after myself right now. switching off from work or switching off from schoolwork or university work, having that little bit of time where maybe you turn off your phone, or as hard as that is, to not pick it up and check, or not just check that quick email, because again, I'm the worst for that. I go, I'll just send that, and then I end up doing another hour or two of work. This is a great one. Removing negative or toxic people. And this goes with that setting boundaries and saying no, because a lot of the time, if we are aware that somebody in our life maybe is negative or is starting to become a bit toxic, it can be really hard then to reestablish that boundary and potentially, cut them out of your life, or to, as I say, reestablish that boundary then. But it works. And it's the same principle as unfollowing social media accounts. Okay, so that's something that I've done throughout the pandemic. I don't know if anybody else has done this as well, but I've started to unfollow people, things that were making me feel down. I also stopped, also stopped watching the news as much, because it was just bringing me down, just making me feel really, really low. And I thought, do you know what? That has to be one of my boundaries. I'm shielding now for the next 6 months. I don't need to, I don't need to read that. I don't need to hear that for a while. Yes, absolutely. Loving the unfollow button. So, but the thing is, if we think about it, whatever we're feeding our mind with and surrounding ourselves with, we start to absorb that. It's almost, like osmosis, we start to absorb that. Oh my goodness, you decorate the whole house, Charlene. Well done. Goodness. And digital detox, absolutely. It's that total idea. It doesn't have to be a complete detox, where, right, I'm not going to use my phone for a month. I'm not going to use any social media for 6 months. It can just be reestablishing those boundaries, having maybe set times when you check emails or check social media. If you are running businesses or accounts, campaigns or anything, scheduling things as well is fabulous, because you don't have to think about them then. They just do themselves, basically. So that's a really great one as well for saving a bit of time. Going to the doctors, it's something that so many people feel embarrassed about doing, and I totally get that. The first time I went to the doctor to say, do you know what, I am really struggling here, I was only 17. I actually took my mum with me. I wanted her there because I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, how much do I tell him? Do I tell him the truth? Do I make it out as if it's not that bad? And she said, no, look, you have to go in, you have to be honest, because that's the only way you can get the help that you need. And I realized that it was actually such a strength then. And it's something, I've had to build and work on over these last 10 or 12 years now living with mental illness. But it's such a strong thing to do, because you are voluntarily making yourself vulnerable. You are opening up yourself and saying, do you know what? I need help with this. And that's okay. And it's terrifying, but it's also so, so empowering, because you go, do you know what? I'm taking control of this now. I'm in control of my life, and I'm going to, make sure that I'm able to do the things that I want to do. Absolutely. Angie's popped in there. Your close friends will understand. You're setting the boundaries. Absolutely. And that's something, whether it is because you're feeling stressed, or whether it is, struggling or living with mental illness, people will respect that if they're the people that truly love and respect and support you. And again, you may lose friends along the way, but as long as you are doing what you need to do to protect yourself and to, make sure that you are happy and healthy, then I would say that that's okay. You can do some self-care or relaxation activities. I'm going to show you some of those shortly, some of the breathing exercises that are really, really good that I use. And also doing nothing. Does anybody else feel really, really guilty when they do nothing? Please say. I've got some people that agree with me. I need to know. But honestly, like, if I do nothing, if I just sit there, I wish I was like that absolutely not answer. My goodness me. Yep. So I feel so guilty, when I sit there and I go, oh, right, should I be prepping something? Should I be, I don't know, making a healthy dinner? Or should I be, yeah, exactly, feeling okay that I've wasted time and then freaking out over the wasted time? That is the truth. I wish doing nothing made me happy. My goodness. But I find it's difficult to switch off. And because, where I do have lots of businesses and projects and organizations and everything, getting, as Daniel says, that me time, I used to find, I still do, to be honest, find it very, very difficult to set aside that time and almost feel as if I deserve it. And that's something that I have to, really work on in my head, is that it's okay for you to rest. As Stella's popped in there, take things one step at a time, and doing nothing is okay. It's all right. We need to rest. We need to recharge. And, even if it is maybe 15 minutes and having a decent cup of tea, just taking that little bit of time to just switch off and go, right, this is for me. And that's okay. Yoga, meditation, and mindfulness. My goodness, absolutely fantastic. Although I think I need to practice my yoga skills. I'm not that flexible, but definitely meditation and mindfulness. Does anybody else already do any of these, like yoga or meditation or anything like that? I'd love to know if anybody has any, daily practices or anything that they do. Give me some ideas and to share with the group. I tried mindfulness, fab. But sleeping and resting. I was saying to Kathy earlier, I got my jab last week, and you know what, guys? I didn't wake up till 1 o'clock today, and it was great because I just needed it. I just needed that rest, and I was saying, it's okay. I need to recharge, and other things as well. Like reading a book or things that you enjoy. That outlet, are fabulous for combating that stress and that burnout. And I haven't even put in there as well about physical activity. That's exceptional. Just going for a walk, or Shauna's putting there about Reiki meditation, fabulous. Ellie's putting about Pilates, very good. You've got Pilates, Tai Chi. There's so many things that you can do. And I say that as a hypocrite because I need to definitely up my skills, as I say, with with yoga. Okay, so how then can we develop our self-awareness? So we hear this thrown around quite a lot, whether it's to do with mental health, mental illness, leadership, within university. We always hear this about developing your self-awareness. But then we go, okay, well, how do I actually do that then? How am I supposed to actually connect with myself? So one thing that you can do is start recognizing or start looking for the triggers. Okay, so there may be certain places, certain people, certain activities that trigger some sort of anxious or emotional response within you. So as soon as you can recognize that and you're thinking, okay, well, I've noticed that I start doing this when this happens, that's when you can go in and start going, okay, well, that's something that I can work on now. How am I going to overcome that? How can I dissect that? Where's that come from? How can I overcome that? That's great, Brian. Thanks so much for sharing that in there. There's a great 10-minute morning meditation. That's brilliant. Thank you. Definitely checking that out. Another thing you can do then is journaling. So for some people, they love journaling and getting it out of their head almost. And sometimes some of the young people I work with as well, if they don't want anybody to find it, I don't know if anybody else does this. I didn't want to journal because I didn't want anybody else to find it. And I was worried that people like my parents or my partner or somebody would read that and then think, oh my goodness, we've got to, do something about this, but it's just me getting my thoughts out. So what some of the young people I work with would do, they write it, but then they burn it, or they rip it up into little pieces or cut it up and throw it away. So, it doesn't have to be something, that you're worrying about, then, oh God, someone's going to find this. You can, go through mentoring or coaching. That can be fantastic as well, and having that different perspective. As we've already said, mindfulness and meditation is fantastic. Angelina's just popped in there as well. Yes, Headspace is fabulous. You are right. You've also got Calm as well, which is a great app. And there's free yoga and meditation sessions on Amazon Prime. I'm actually connected with the lady who designed that. She was the one who designed it on Alexa. To do with all the meditations and everything. So yeah, definitely recommend those. You can do some sort of personal development courses, so they can be even come to things like this, developing your knowledge, expanding those skills. And even if you come away and you go, okay, do you know what? I knew 90% of that already, but okay, well, yeah, I did actually take away a few things from that, looking for that learning all the time to help you to grow. Thinking about the learning, then reflecting on your goals. So reflecting on your things that you want to achieve and how you're going to get there, but also reflecting on how far you've come. So sometimes we forget that, particularly if you are struggling with mental illness. We become so obsessed and so overwhelmed with the negative things or the failures or the things that we haven't done that we forget all the things that we have done. you know, and sometimes I actually sit that down and I've got big A3 pad of paper, and some days I actually sit down and write the things that I'm proud of that I've achieved so that I can see it. You know, it's something tangible in front of me that I can hold and go, do you know what? You've done that. And some days it's you got up today. Some days it's well done for eating a proper meal. Well done for having a shower. You know, sometimes it is that. Feedback from others is fabulous as well. So I'm not talking about, you know, somebody absolutely dissecting your life. But I mean, you know, proper feedback that's constructive, that you can learn from and that you can reflect on and go, do you know what? Yeah, I think you were right about that. Maybe I do that sometimes. Because I know with my anxiety, sometimes it can make sensitive. And I can start going, well, I don't want to listen to your feedback. I'm not interested in what you've got to say because I'm so in my own head that it seems like another stress taking on more information. So I had to change my mindset around that and go, well, do you know what? This is valuable. They're only trying to help me. And it's reminding myself of those things. Monitoring our self-talk then comes into that. So, you know, the only voice that we can never get away from is the voice in our head. So I always say, well, let's make friends with that voice then and use it kindly and use it wisely. Okay, because, you know, I'm sure if I said to you, can you remember something? Actually, yeah, I'll ask it. Can anybody remember maybe a teacher from primary school or secondary school that they didn't like, and they can remember something that they said to them? Sorry, I'm just reading what Henry's put in the chat there. Yeah, absolutely. Yep, helps you get out that spiral when you look at, you know, what I have actually achieved. Okay, yes, I am a good person, you know. But, you know, if I said to you, as I say, you know, do you remember a teacher or somebody that, maybe a boss as well, you know, that had a real impact on you, positively or negatively, but the things that they say or the things that they said stay in your head and you will remember that. You know, I can remember things that people said to me when I was 5 years old, but all of them are negative because it's 10 times easier. You're 10 times more likely to retain a negative piece of information than you are a positive piece of information. So that's where things like affirmations come in, you know, and repeating that. So you're almost leveling up or balancing that ratio, you know, of the negative and the positive things that you hear. Good, Shauna. Well done. I love that. I proved wrong. Fantastic. And don't you love that too? You know, there's of course, you know, the professional help then. So whether it's counselling or talking therapy, these next two have been so valuable for me. And I'm doing a session on Friday as well, a second one in the afternoon, I think it is, about growth mindset. You may have heard of that. You may not have heard of it. Honestly, growth mindset has totally changed my life, and it was how I was able to recover from bankruptcy, which was only 3 years ago, to now being the Northern Ireland National Director for the Global Entrepreneurship Network. Okay, so I definitely recommend coming along to that. I love this, Kathy. You're so on the ball with the links. So yes, it's a growth mindset, honestly. And if you're not able to come to it, look it up because it is incredible. So yes, forgiving yourself. That is such a huge one, I think, with mental illness. You know, we carry so much guilt and we internalize so much and we take it on as if it's our own, you know, whether we did it or not. You know, and allowing ourselves to be forgiven, you know, for past mistakes. And that was something for me because obviously when I lost the business or when I had to declare bankruptcy, I had 45 staff at the time. And I had a learning centre that I had spent £15,000 renovating. And it was the hardest thing I've ever had to go through. And it's taken me until maybe a few months ago to actually forgive myself properly for that. Because, you know, I know that I did everything I could do. And I know that I handled it in the best way that I could at the time. But you still carry that guilt with you no matter what it is. You know, so allowing yourself to be forgiven, it's okay. We all make mistakes. And then linked in with that then is deconstructing failures. So I've put them in little quotation marks because I don't believe in failure. So it's perceived failure. Failure is just a learning opportunity. So if we can deconstruct that failure, you know, even if it's literally sitting down, okay, well, what were the steps that I did take? apologies, train going past there, very loud horn, that made me jump. You know, deconstructing that and going, okay, well, these are the things that I did do. Would it have been better for me to try this? What other strategies and solutions could I employ next time? What learning can I take from this? What was valuable about making that mistake? Because a lot of the time we look at mistakes and failure and we think, oh, that's the end, that's it, no, you've messed up, don't want to know anymore. But we forget that, you know, everybody makes them, and it's okay, because it's how we learn and grow. You know, think about when we were children. You know, how many times did we fall over when we were learning to walk? But we didn't fall down once and then just say, oh, well, that's it, I failed, now I'm never going to walk, you know, or I'm never going to talk. We didn't stop, because when we're younger, we have that naturally, that we just keep going, and that, unfortunately, you know, as we grow up, kind of ebbs away from us. So we have to really keep that. And as I say, deconstructing failures is really, really good, not only for you know, developing your self-awareness, but also just for supporting your mental health in general, and getting almost like a bird's eye view, or a more objective perspective. Oh, little rhyme there, objective perspective. So okay, so in order to connect with yourself then, so you've got that developing self-awareness, but these are some of the things then that you can look out for and almost monitor within yourself to build that mind-body connection. So when somebody says to you, how are you? What do you normally answer? So you can type this into the chat if you want. What's your standard answer if you go, somebody goes to you, how are you? Oh, gee, mate, love that. Yeah, exactly. So most people, it's the same thing, you know, yeah, I'm all right. Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, I'm fine. How are you? How's things? You know, we don't necessarily start going, well, actually, yeah, this has been going, you know, we don't dive into that. We keep it as a very, you know, surface conversation. But if we want to get a little bit deeper, and this applies whether it's with somebody else or with ourselves, asking that second question. Okay, yes, how are you? But how are you really? Okay, how are you really doing? Because I do it with myself. It's like I lie to myself. You know, I'll go to myself, yeah, I'm all right. And then I go, right, how are you really? And I go, okay, yeah, well, actually, I'm quite stressed with this. So it's almost, you need that second question to permit yourself to open up. And these are the things then that you can check in on. So you can think, okay, well, you know, am I feeling particularly resilient? And then if you're saying no to any of these, we can look at, okay, well, how can I build them then? You know, what can I do to support these? Am I being kind to myself? Am I compassionate? Am I feeling self-confident? Am I able to regulate my emotions? Or am I feeling, you know, very up and down, or, you know, struggling with perhaps anxiety? How's my sleep doing? Am I sleeping too much, too little, not getting enough rest? How stressed am I feeling? You know, if we think about it on a scale of 0 to 10, where are we sitting on that? And what would maybe bring me down a couple of points? Our blood pressure, I don't know if you guys ever get this, or maybe I'm just getting old, but where you can feel it in your neck when you're stressed. Does anybody else get that? Where you can like feel your heart rate, essentially, you can feel that pulsing. Yeah, you can feel it in your neck, and that's because your tension, you're holding it in this area in your jaw. So what you can do, to just a quick tip, really, really simple, is do it right now, actually, if you want to, is take your tongue from the roof of your mouth and push it against the bottom. So we hold our tongue at the top of our mouths when we're concentrating or stressed. So if you lower that, automatically your jaw starts to relax a little bit. And then as you pull that, I actually have to consciously pull it down because I find it hard. Pulling it down to the bottom of my mouth, and then allows my jaw to relax. And then I start to relax my neck and my shoulders. And then all of a sudden you feel that tension starting to go, like across your shoulders, across your back. But yeah, it's really simple when it works. So if you're feeling really stressed and you can feel yourself almost gritting and holding it in this area, just lower the tongue to the bottom of your mouth, and then you'll start to relax. Monitoring your heart rate, you know, with anxiety, I would always get, you know, really fast beating heart. So monitoring that and sweating and all those kind of things. Your overall anxiety levels, and also rumination. So that rumination, you know, I can't remember who, sorry, I mentioned earlier about spiraling, you know, about that almost out of control and how to reel that back. That's the rumination, is where you're stuck on that same point or that same thought. and it keeps coming back and you're struggling to break that. So that's another thing that my family and my partner know to look out for. When my mental health is getting worse, they see that I start to talk a lot more about death, basically, to be honest, and about, like, you know, what it would be like if I wasn't here, basically. So, you know, when I having those difficult conversations, or I speak about, unfortunately, so just a trigger warning, what I'm going to speak about here. Unfortunately, during university, I was actually sexually assaulted a couple of months before graduation. And it was after that, then I was diagnosed with anxiety. So that event happened, what was it now, 7 years ago. And that's something that, well, not now, I don't think about it every day, but it was something that was affecting me every single day, and I would think about it every day. So that's how, another thing with the rumination, if I start to talk about that or mention it, they know that something else is usually going on there. Okay, so that's me developing that self-awareness and looking out for the things that I start to do. Okay, so a couple of wee breathing exercises then. So if we are feeling a bit overwhelmed or stressed, these are some really fabulous ones that you can use, and they work quickly. So I'll demonstrate them, and if you want to join in, you can. If you don't, that's absolutely fine. I'd invite you to join in and close your eyes if you want to, but as I say, there's absolutely no pressure. So the first one is just super simple. It is just diaphragmic breathing. Sometimes it's called belly breathing, but essentially all you're doing, make sure your feet are flat on the floor and you've got a nice straight back, arms just nice and relaxed. And if you want to, you can put one hand on your heart, just so it gives you something to kind of tune into. And all you're going to do is breathe in through your nose and inflate your tummy, and then breathe out through your mouth. I'll keep talking as you're doing this. The most important thing as you're breathing in and out is to keep your shoulders down. So a lot of the time, if you say to somebody breathe in, they start going and lifting their shoulders. So you want to keep your shoulders down and make sure that it's just your stomach. So you're pushing it outwards almost as you're sucking that air in through your nose. And then as you breathe out, bringing your tummy back in then. Okay. So do maybe another 5 or 6 of those, just to get used to keeping your shoulders down, to inflating your tummy as you breathe in through your nose, and then contracting your tummy as you breathe out. Okay, so hopefully you've done just a few of those. If you do, roughly, you want to do about 30 or so, and that's when you start to feel the real benefits of the breathing, is doing 30 of the exercises, or for about 5 minutes. Okay, so that's when you start to really feel the impact, because what you're doing there scientifically is activating your parasympathetic nervous system. And that's the bit that comes in and goes, it's okay, everything's fine. So your sympathetic is the one that goes, fight or flight, oh my goodness, I'm stressed, what's happening? And then your parasympathetic is the one that comes in and goes, come on, it's all right, we're going to chill out. So that's what you're activating. Okay. This other one then is infinity breathing, or you can just think of it as a figure of 8. With some of my older ones, I call it a drunk 8. So it's an 8 on its side. But you can do this one tracing it into the air. You can trace it onto your palm if you prefer. I don't like that because it makes me tickle. Some people like to do it on their tummy if they're laying down. Or if you want to, you can just trace it onto the table, or you can draw it onto a piece of paper and trace that. So there's loads of ways that you can adapt this. And it's just essentially a continuation of what you were doing already. So that breathing in and out, that diaphragmic breathing, but this time, as you go around one side of the infinity sign, you're breathing in, pause when you get into the middle, and then tracing the other side, you're breathing out then. Okay, so that one's nice and simple. And essentially the infinity is just to allow you to concentrate and just to allow you to tune in and make sure those breaths are regular then. Okay. I've said that about breaths being regular. If you're feeling kind of okay and you're doing these, breathe in for the same amount of time that you breathe out. However, if you're extremely stressed or you feel as if you're going to have a panic attack, you need to breathe out for longer than you breathe in. Does anybody want to hazard a guess actually why? into the chat there. Does anybody know why, if you're feeling anxious, you'd want to breathe out for longer than breathing in? See if we've got any sciencey ones in the group. It's a good idea. Yes, it does slow your heart rate. That is also what happens. There's one big reason, though, one big scientific reason. Yeah, you've heard this before, Kathy. Stop cheating. So absolutely. So it's actually to do with the carbon dioxide levels in your blood. So the higher your carbon dioxide levels, the more stressed you will feel. So that's why, if another great tip as well, if somebody is going to have a panic attack, I had panic attacks for 3 or 4 years. Thankfully, I haven't had one in a couple of years because I do this. If you are getting a bit breathless like that and you can't catch your breath, it can be really overwhelming. And what's the first thing that somebody says to you? If you see someone or you yourself are going to have a panic attack, what does everybody say to you? What's the first thing they advise? Yep, absolutely. So they start going, okay, breathe, take a big deep breath in, make sure you're breathing in. That's making it worse. You need to breathe out first, okay? Because what you're doing, when you're getting overwhelmed like that, your carbon dioxide levels are really, really high in your blood. So you need to start breathing out first. So you get them to exhale as long as they can or as long as you can. And then you start with the belly breathing, or you start trying to breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. Okay. So really, really anxious, really overwhelmed, breathe out first. And it's the same with the exercises. You can see here with the triangle, I've given just the regular one, the 3-3-3. So again, like the infinity, you can trace it. Breathe in for 3 seconds. Hold for, I'm going the wrong way. Breathe in for 3 seconds. Hold for 3 seconds. Breathe out for 3 seconds. That one, as I say, it's just a nice one to bring your heart rate down, relax you a little bit. But if you are really, really anxious or you feel very stressed, you want to change that and do something like a 4-7-8. So some people may have heard of that before as a 4-7-8 breathing, where you're breathing in for 4 seconds, you're holding it for 7 seconds, and then you're breathing out for 8 seconds. So it doesn't have to be those exact numbers. It could be 4-6-7 or 5-8-9, as long as it goes up incrementally. That's the main thing. So your in breath, shortest, your middle, your hold is the middle amount, and then your exhale is your longest. And that then allows your parasympathetic nervous system to activate and starts to then allow you to regulate. Okay. Another great one is the hand breathing. Some of you may have done this before. I'll show you 2 for this actually. So this one here you can see is nice and simple, where it's just a case of tracing one side of your finger. You stop when you get to the tip and then breathe out. I suppose I should mention the breathing part, not just tracing your hand. So breathe in as you trace this one side. Breathe in through your nose. Pause as you get to the tip, and then breathing out as you trace down the other side. So you could do that all the way across your hand. If you wanted to, you can do it across both hands. If you're with a partner, again, if somebody else is having a panic attack, you can actually put your hands up and get them to trace onto your hands. It allows them to feel more grounded and brings them back into the space, back into their body as well, because you can feel a bit as if you're not with it. So that's a great one. And also, again, you could trace your hand and draw around it. If anybody has children or younger brothers and sisters, they can use this as well. Draw around their hand, trace it into the air. They can trace it onto the piece of paper. So there's loads of ways that you can adapt that one, but it just gives you something to focus on as you're doing it to calm your mind. Okay. Let's see. So another thing that you can do, this is a really great exercise, and this is another one that I would do quite regularly, particularly throughout the pandemic. It's been very beneficial, is to draw either 3 circles that are overlapping, or not overlapping, but incrementally sized, or 3 separate ones. And within one of them, you're going to write down the things that are in your comfort zone. So you don't have to do this right now, but it's something, if you want to make a note of, or I'll be sending out the slides, or Ulster will afterwards, so you can have a copy of this. That comfort zone, the things where you are safe, you're free from anxiety, you don't feel stressed, you're totally comfortable. Go in that green part. Then that stretch zone, that's the optimal zone for learning. Okay, so that's ideally where like teachers and lecturers and educators want to keep students, is that stretch zone where you're not totally overwhelmed, but you are being challenged and you are being pushed. So that applies to all of life. You know, my stretch zone, this probably sounds really random, my stretch zone would be driving to new places because it's challenging. It makes me feel a bit anxious. I have to look at the Google Maps first to see where the parking is. But you know, it makes me feel better when I do it, and I know I can do it. But as part of my anxiety, that's one of my little things that is my stretch zone. And then the danger zone, that's the things that, okay, I'm totally overwhelmed, I'm going into meltdown, you know, I'm in fight or flight mode. Technically there's actually 5. We always learn about fight or flight, but it's fight, friend, or flop. They're actually the 5 survival responses. So they're the 2 that we reference the most, is the fight or flight, but there's actually 5, just in case anyone's interested. So in that danger zone then, oh, did I cut out? Sorry. So that was the train going past again. The 5, did you hear me say about the 5, or is that the, okay, yep. So you have the 5 trauma responses: fight, flight, friend, freeze, or flop. Just if anybody is interested in looking up those, but most of the time we just kind of speak about the fight or flight, as most people will know that as the survival response. So that's what's in your danger zone. That's the space where you're going, okay, this is too overwhelming. I'm actually not being productive now because this is, you know, I'm not able to regulate my emotions, or I'm particularly overwhelmed or particularly stressed, and thinking about the things that are in that space. Okay, so this is a great activity, again, for building that self-awareness, getting to know yourself a little bit more as well. But also then thinking, okay, well, if this is in my stretch zone, what can I do for myself to bring that into the comfort zone? You know, what can I do with that? And that's why I put those mitigations in place. You know, when I look up where the place is that I'm going, where I look up the car park, or I look up the pictures, they're all the little things that reduce that then from the stretch zone into comfort, because I'm like, okay, yeah, I can do that. So having a little look at that as well. And another great exercise, particularly at the moment, and again throughout the pandemic, I've been doing this with all my teenage groups, all my groups actually, is thinking about what you can control. Okay, so with anxiety, particularly with mental illness, control is such a big element of that. And a lot of the time, you will find if people have experienced trauma, myself included, you've had that control taken from you. So then you try, to control that. So, you know, you're thinking of, well, what are the things I can actually control? So within that worksheet, or you can draw this out for yourself, you know, you just draw a circle, or you can draw a flower or a picture of yourself in the middle. And you're thinking, okay, these are the things that I can control. I can control my thoughts, my actions, my feelings, what I wear, my hairstyle, my home, you know, all those things. And then on the outside, you're thinking, okay, well, what can I not control? Right, well, I can't control global policy. I can't control what's happening with the pandemic. I can't control other people's thoughts and actions. I can't control maybe their response to a situation. You know, there's so many things to think about. And when you see it visually, it almost allows you then to start not disappear, but the ones around the outside, they almost become smaller, they become minimized, because you go, okay, well, this is my sphere of control. This is what I can control, and this is what I have power over. Okay. Oh, very good. You used it during shielding. Yep, same. I was shielding / still am kind of. So yeah, I do this quite regularly. And yes, those pictures will be in the slides, but what I'll do for Ulster with the folder I send them, I'll also put them as like their own images, so then you can see them. All right, Angelina, I hope that's okay. And the final thing then is asking for help. You know, so we do need help. We all need help at some stage, and that's okay. It's all right to reach out and ask. But there's so many places you can go to. So I've already said about, if you want to speak to me, that's absolutely fine. You know, a lot of people will go, oh, okay, she understands, or she gets it. You know, they know I'm a safe person to speak to. But, you know, you can go to your teachers or educators. You can go to youth workers and leaders. You can go to the university wellbeing department. I'm sure, you know, Kathy in employability and careers as well, you know, they would be able to signpost you to excellent internal and external services. Your GP is a brilliant starting point because that allows you to then get into the system for referrals and psychiatric support and things like that if you need it. You can go to mental health charities, so they'll have helplines and community support groups. I run a free support group for 13 to 19-year-olds on Wednesday evening. So if anybody wants to come to that, you're more than welcome. Don't worry if you're a little bit older, there's no ID on the door. So mentors and coaching, as I've already said, that can be fantastic. And also, you know, reaching out and looking at their talking therapies, CBT or counselling, because the only thing that actually helped me to be able to move on, I said about the growth mindset, yes, fantastic, but it was twofold. The other element of that was the counselling. And I went and got a trauma informed specialist to work with me on that. And I was able to get it, you know, at the time, because I was bankrupt, I could only afford £5 a week. I had nothing. And these sessions were meant to be £40. And they said to me, you know, it's okay, we understand your situation. So being honest with people and being upfront and open, they're willing to work with you and help you. And Young Minds have some great resources online, but also Papyrus. Papyrus is prevention of young suicide, but I love that they have a helpline, but they call it a hope line. And I think that's really, really nice. So, you know, there's a few e-services there that you can access, and also the text service, you know, so don't think that you have to actually phone someone. You can do it through texting, and you can do it with email services as well. Okay. So thank you so much for listening to me. I know I rattled through that a bit. There's so much comes to mental health. My goodness me. So that's a little bit of an overview. I hope that helped. I know I've gone up to time here. My goodness me. I could just talk forever, as you probably know by now. But there's my details and social media contacts and everything. My email, I'll just put the email into the chat quickly. And if anybody has any questions, lemonshopuk@gmail.com. There we go. There's my email if anybody wants to contact me directly. And I will hand back to Kathy.
Oh, Katie, thank you. Katie, something that I kind of wanted to know was, you know, it's overthinking part of a mental health problem, do you think?
It's one of the symptoms. So, you know, I was saying, you know, that word rumination that I mentioned?
Yes, that's what,
Yeah, rumination is the overthinking. That's the going round and round on the same thing. It's not necessarily that in itself wouldn't be, you know, classified as mental illness, but it would definitely be one of the traits that we see, particularly with depression. But you do also see it with anxiety, but particularly those intrusive thoughts. It's the it's the depression side where you would particularly see that. So it can present itself, you know, as one of the symptoms of if people are struggling, definitely with mental ill health or mental illness.
it's that cycle or circle, or as someone referred to it, that spiral, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, where it's sort of, but obviously, with you having been through so many things yourself and being in touch with this, you can really relate and give, outline what works for you.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's why I'm always very open, you know, as well, speaking about my own, you know, daily struggles and living with mental illness and the things that have happened and trauma, because, you know, we're all real people, we're all human. And a lot of the time, you know, speaking with young people, they look at me and they go, oh my goodness, she was only 28 when she got appointed as a national director, and she's got 3 businesses and she's won these awards, and you know, and I'm like, yeah, but there's a human side of me as well. You know, there's the side that needs the support, there's the side that, you know, is worried sometimes, you know, about how other people are going to perceive me, you know, and it's terrifying every time you do it. You know, like opening up even to a group like this, because you can't necessarily see anyone as well when it's online.
I
It is
know,
scary.
I know.
You know,
Yeah, it's very unpleasant, isn't it? Just talking to an audience that you can't see.
this is a dig at everyone to put your cameras on. So
Gotta happen sometimes. There's another session tomorrow, guys, about building your resilience. We've got lots and lots and lots of sessions, and we've been putting things into the chat box as we've gone along. Whole day, full days of programs every single day. Some things are running at the same time, and we're recording them. But for any students, graduates still in the room, as I say, if you're interested in positive mental health, Katie's back with us. You're doing 2 sessions on Friday.
Yeah, I'm doing tomorrow. Tomorrow I'm doing self-care. Yep, self-care strategies. And that will go
Self-care
into
strategies
more
tomorrow.
detail. Yep.
The growth
And I'm looking
mindset.
forward to that, Katie, definitely.
Brilliant. Sorry, I put myself on mute there. And I was like, oh. But no, I'm really, really looking forward to it. So
So Shauna will be hosting you tomorrow, I think. Katie,
no
this is
problem.
Shauna, my colleague from McGee. And then you've got 2 sessions, the growth mindset and looking after, a friend on Friday. What I'll just do is stop the recording now, so that people feel then